Welcome, everybody. We are back at the Denver Dzogchen podcast. I'm here, as always, with my friend Joseph Wagner. And today we have a very special guest, Mr. Richard Lang. I'm going to let Joe introduce his longtime friend, Richard.
It is my absolutely great pleasure. Richard, welcome. Thank you so much for making time. Richard is the head of the international organization, uh, which supports the work of Douglas Harding to
The
spread.
head of the Headless Way.
He's the head of the Headless Way. That's exactly right. You beat me to it. I had something else planned, but okay. But thank you for joining us. I've known Richard since, was that 2000, must have been about 2002, maybe 2001.
Probably.
Yeah, I remember being first in touch with your brother and in California, and then he recommended that I talk to you, and then I visited you in London that time too, and we've seen each other quite a bit in Colorado as well. So it is my absolute pleasure, our pleasure, to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. A pleasure to be here, Joe and Damien. Yeah. Wonderful. All
Yeah.
right. What are we going to do?
Well, we're going to talk about the Headless Way. I would like to, I guess, probably since some of our, I mean, when I came across it, I came across it from a reference in a Lu Guanyu book, an old Chinese Zen book, in which in the preface he said that this insight, he was calling it samadhi, is common to many traditions. And in fact, there's a fellow named Douglas Harding who wrote an exceptional book on this. And it was that book that caused me to reach out to the Headless Way and get in touch with you. So many of our readers or our listeners don't know anything about headlessness. So I wonder if could you talk a little bit about what headlessness is, the history, and how you got involved? It's a good story, so I think they'd enjoy that.
Thank you, Joe. Sure. Well, hello to all is it listeners or viewers?
Both. We put it
Both.
out on
Oh,
all the different options. Yeah.
okay. Well, if you are interested in finding your true nature or enjoying your true nature or sharing your responses to your true nature, if you're already aware of it, then I celebrate that with you. And what I mean by true nature is a non-verbal experience of the place I'm looking out of, which is boundless and still and always here. And I believe that's true for everyone. And to discover that point of stillness nearer to you than your breathing is to discover just a fantastic resource. And it is not a dead stillness, it's just endlessly creative and imaginative and fun and so many things. So, whatever way you get to that place called home, called the clear land, called the big country, called the place of everlasting clearness, whatever you want to call it, however you get there, the point is to get there
Mm.
and not to just think about it and wonder about it and hope to get there. But the real enjoyment of life comes from being there. And it's not difficult, I say. It's more of a pleasure than hard work, much more of a pleasure. Uh, it, it, it doesn't make life easy. In fact, life is a challenge every moment, I would say, but that is how we learn, and that's the ride. And so I was searching for this place when I was a teenager, and I'd grown up not in a religious family, but then got into Christianity when I was about 12, and then got out of it because it didn't offer what I was looking for. And for some reason, I wanted to find that stillness. So this was the late 60s, and I was reading up on Eastern religions, which were coming into the West
Mm.
then. And in 1970, when I was 17, I went to the London Buddhist Society Summer School to find out, to get enlightened, I suppose, hope. And it was very confusing. I like to tell the story that there were all kinds of different Buddhist paths being represented there. One was the Tibetan, and there was a Tibetan Lama there. And I was a shy teenager with my brother. We went together, shy teenager, and I heard that this Tibetan Lama could read your mind.
Hmm.
And I thought, I'm not going near him. I thought if he reads my mind, the game is up, you know. It'd be so embarrassing. Anyway, there was a Zen teacher. I think his name was Zengo, and from Japan. And I was just so shy. I didn't even go in the room. I turned back, you know. But anyway, one afternoon, it was only a few days I was there, someone said, go along to the workshop with Douglas Harding. And so, yes, sir, or yes, madam, it was someone called Jane, I got to know later. Went along to this workshop, never heard about Douglas Harding, who wrote the book on having no head. And he, uh, he said, well, just look back at the place where everyone else sees your head, Richard. And so I went, yes, sir. I was, kind of doing what people told. And I looked, I thought, oh my God, I don't see my head. I mean, it's the most obvious thing. And the thing is, I suppose what happened was that he said, and Richard, this is what you're looking for. I mean, he didn't say it in so many words, but this is what he meant. This is what you're looking for. And it is an extremely direct, simple way into your true nature. And it is so obvious that it's very easy to dismiss it as a trick,
Hmm.
you see. And society will tell you it's a trick. He didn't say this, but this is part of my reflections over the years since. But somehow I had the grace just to look rather than think and dismiss it as a trick.
That's what's required. Yeah,
Meditation.
totally.
Meditation isn't thinking. It primarily it's attention, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah. And he then said to everyone, if you are interested in this, come and visit. He lived in Suffolk in England. And in fact, I went to Cambridge after that, and that was not far from where I lived. So I used to visit a lot.
Hmm.
And I was able just to bring up doubts and questions when first met him. And then I visited a lot and I became part of the community of friends because it was not business. You didn't pay, you went and stayed as a friend. But the whole reason for going was to attend to your true nature and to share it
Hmm.
and to share your response to it and explore what it meant and to keep your attention on it. And so I was very excited, and I knew very quickly somehow that not only was this important to me in terms of being aware of it and living from it. I mean, Douglas was an incredibly impressive person, and the more I've learned about him since then, the more impressed I am about the books he wrote, the life he lived, all of that. The fact that he discovered this on his own, and by the time I met him, he'd done so much with it. But it was only when I met him, it was only just fairly recently, only 6 years before he'd showed it with the first person.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, it was not long after, and he'd been on his own with it for 20 years. And when he first shared it, he thought, now I can die.
Hmm.
And the next year he shared it with a couple more people. So when I met him, there was a whole group of people when I went first to his house with my mum and my brother again, just a couple of months after I first met him. There'd be a dozen people there, and we stayed, and it was very intense and exciting and fun and playful and caring and loving. And those days were very exciting because we would, he was, and then we piled in, uh, making up experiments and awareness exercises to communicate this. And I had very quickly uh, realized I wanted to spend my life sharing it, not just being aware of it, but transmitting it and doing my part. And one of the things when I look back that was very important was that Douglas had around him friends, not students, but friends. So you became a friend. It wasn't a business, it wasn't a hierarchy. So when you look, how do you become aware of this? Well, just look back and notice you can't see your head. You see, so when I'm looking at you, Joe, then I see your face, but I don't see mine. So we call it face to no face. Or
Mm.
I notice I'm not looking out two little windows, I'm looking for one opening. And all the viewer or the listener needs to do is even just point back at the place you're looking out of. It is, a bit embarrassing to do probably, but really it's very effective. You point back and look at the place you're pointing at. There you go, and you don't see anything. And you say,
Amazing.
well,
Really amazing, actually.
it is.
Miracle.
I mean, and then you're good to go,
Yeah.
or good to stay, which, whichever it is, you see. And you see, what just happened there was we just had a little interaction about it.
Mm,
And I have no doubt that when you pointed back, you saw nothing,
that's
right?
exactly
Except,
what could
your finger.
possibly be seen over there.
Well, there you go. You see, but now we're sharing that,
Mm,
aren't we? And then you can't doubt that the other person is experiencing exactly the same as you are, because essentially it has no content.
mm,
And so there's nothing to differ about. But your response to it, your thoughts about it, your reaction to it will be different from mine.
mm,
And when even I see you nodding, it doesn't have to be a verbal reaction. I get feedback on your response to this basic experience of being without content, but full of everything going on, from your hands and your breathing to the stars, you see. And uh, when I sense your enthusiasm for it, perhaps, or surprise, or joy, or playfulness, that rubs off on me and evokes that kind of thing in me. And that is the joy
mm.
and the value of sharing. So and it's infectious, you see. I mean, social interaction is infectious. You get infected. And when this is in the equation, the admission, the acknowledgement that we're face to no face, for example,
Mm.
I mean, that's a total game changer. Seen from the outside, we're face to face, Joe, Richard. But from the inside, I have your face, you have mine. True?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, that is love. That is, I was watching that film, A Complete Unknown, on, Bob Dylan. And there's a scene on stage at Newport where he's playing, and well, Joan Baez is playing, and no, I think he's playing, and then she comes onto the stage, and they've had an argument, and she hates him, but they sing together. Um, I'm not the one you're looking for, and you look at her looking at him, and suddenly she's completely open. And it's really beautifully acted, and he is too. And you say, "Oh my God, it's so obvious she's completely in love with him."
Mm,
Now, what I got from that was what was happening was she was loving seeing his face. So
mm,
her own appearance was completely out of the way. She wasn't being worried about what he thought about her. She was just totally into him, you see. It was beautifully, genuinely, in a way, communicated in that film. But that is headlessness, essentially. You're out of the way and you're space for the other. Now, you're not in love in the same emotional way as that situation, but that is the basis of love, is seeing that you're empty for the other and recognizing, I would say, that that person is in you and you're in them, and there's only one consciousness.
Mm.
That's the game changer. It's the game changer, yeah.
Wow.
Richard, I have a question for you. So,
Oh,
in this is so simple, so direct, and so like right now there's no other thing, but of course we have all these world traditions that have these big long paths, and even an experience like this might be towards the beginning of your path, but then there's this path that follows. Could you talk about what that path is to you, and what are we doing beyond that? It seems like in some sense you could be like, okay, I'm done. What else is there? But on the other hand, it seems that there could be this whole path following that.
well, it's a bit like, what I'll be like in 10 years. You say, so who are you? And you go, Damien. And then I go, who are you? And you go, Damien. You see, so it's every time you look, it's new and you
Mhm.
can't remember it. That's one thing. So you're done in a way. But you've got to keep returning in the moment because it's only now. So
Mhm.
that's one mystery, one paradox, beautiful, kind thing. There's nothing to maintain. But the thing is that there's always two sides to this, because when you obviously, as you say, you look back, it's so simple. You can't see your head, you're empty, you're space for the world, done in a way. Yeah. And I think it's important to truthfully, authentically say you're done if you're done. You
Mm.
see, why pretend? Why be falsely modest? Proclaim it. I'm home. The Buddha, when he got enlightenment, the earth acknowledged it. It's not something to be shy about. It is just self-evidently just brilliant. There's no downside to it. It is the joy without a shadow, as they say. But outwardly, in terms of one's responses are changing all the time. And one's understanding is changing. And you never get the experience is perfect, 100% non-verbal, but the understanding comes in dribs and drabs. And it comes with every day. And that's the path, you see. So you're both done at home, over, wonderful. That's the joy. I'm going to dance like mad because I'm out of the box. You
Mm.
see, right? And wow, another day. And look what I'm learning today. And look what I'm learning from interacting with you. And you see, one of the challenges or opportunities that I see on my path, because everyone has a different view out, a different path flowing from this common source is just wonderful. I mean, you can't explain the technicalities of that. It's Indra's net, isn't it? But um, one of the you think that you have finally kind of got it, and the next day you drop through the floor into a complete, oh my God, I never even thought of that. Well, one of the exciting sides of it for me these days is a deepening acknowledgement that everyone I meet is this. This is namaste. But so it's not just that I'm face to no face with you. It's that I'm empathizing and believing and taking seriously the fact that you must be in the same condition, that you're empty for me. And uh, therefore, paradoxically, strangely, mysteriously, inexplicably, there's only one consciousness. There's two of us somehow, and yet there's one. Now, that recognition that we're not just two, but we're also one is a recognition, is an understanding, is something that gradually seeps in, because when you grow up, you're taught to see yourself as others see you, with a face, and therefore face to face with others, and separate, and everybody's separate from you and you're separate from them. And how could you mix? How could you be one with them? You're separate things, you see. So that is necessary in order to join society as a person. You've got to take on board the fact that you are a person in society for others. And when you see who you really are, it's waking up to what you are from your point of view, you see. And for me, this recognition that you now, I'm talking to myself, that my voice is coming out nothing and you're hearing it in the nothing there and you're hearing it in the silence there. And I don't know what your thoughts and feelings are about it, but I know I absolutely have no doubt that you are the silence. And it's the same as here, and it's not in England and America. It's got no address. Now, that is real. I mean, I'm talking about my experience. I don't have your experience, but there's only one space. There's only one consciousness, and everything's in it. I know that's self-evident. I can't prove it. It's self-evident. But that now opens up and challenges me to a very different way of living my life and a very different way of being with so-called others. Because as soon as I attend, I find no dividing line, no dividing line. Now that is how my path is unfolding. Do you see what I mean? That deepening kind of acknowledgement of this just absolutely wonderful, amazing, mind-blowing fact. I mean, it's something to go out and dance about, which, and the thing is that when you see that who you really are, there's a certain sense in which you find you're completely alone. You are the alone. That was the Buddha. You're the alone. Because there's only one consciousness and nothing outside you, you see. Okay, now you've grown up thinking you're not alone, see, and that's very deep in you. What happens to that? Well, I say that doesn't go away. You've now got two things going. Your primary thing is there's only one and everything's in you, but you've got this deep feeling and conditioning that there are others and the world is somehow mysterious and not you. It's all you and yet not you. Now that is not a mistake. That's something that's emerged within the one as a kind of there's something true or something really valuable about it. And what it means is that because I now have a deep sense of you, Joe, and you, Damien, over there in America, and with your own lives, and you're not just pictures in consciousness, you are, see, just pictures in consciousness, but I act as if deeply, not superficially, as if you are, you've got your own lives there. But now I understand. You see, if I apply what I find true for me, I say, well, you're looking out of a single eye too. You can't see your own face. When you look at others, you're face to no face. See, now what is sort of happening here is that if all it meant when you saw who you really was, oh, there are no others, just pictures in consciousness, why would you bother talking to someone? You see. I bother talking to you because I have a deep feeling you're there, and I'm very happy about that. I'd much rather I had that feeling than you weren't there. You see, you're just picturing consciousness. But this means that I can talk to you now about being the one. You see.
Mm-hmm.
Not just to a picture in consciousness, but there you are, you see, you're nodding. And you're now giving me some feedback, even if it's non-verbal, about, oh, yeah, I get that, you see. And that, to me, is so beautiful and important and valuable, is this, this kind of gift of the other with whom the one can talk to itself genuinely and say, isn't it wonderful to be the one? And the one over there goes, sure is. now, this is part of the path, isn't it? And what I find happening, because I do a lot of groups with this, and in a lot of groups, everybody is aware of their true nature, genuinely. That's the thing about the Headless Way. It delivers the goods. Any way that delivers the goods, good. I don't care which way, which path you come in, but get in. you know, you know, and then we can share our different paths here and our different paths from here, you see, because that's really interesting. But I spend a lot of time in groups with people who have come via the Headless Way. But I mean, they've come with lots of other paths as well. I mean, the 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 community that I'm in touch with, and it's not just Headless, is very deeply experienced in these things. You talk to people, they've been on retreats, they've been exploring that for 20 years, they've done that. This is not naive, this very, very deep experience. And when you are in a community where it is genuinely acknowledged that everyone is home, right? And there's no, are they at home? Maybe they're at home more. That nonsense. You're either at home or you're not. And look how easy it is. But then to be like here, to be with friends where this is being experienced in the moment, and there's no debate about that. There's just a kind, and there's an acknowledgement that each person's response is valid, and you and in a way can't be faulted, right? Because it's not a difficult thing, it's not rocket science. So what I'm saying there is that this is a taste of a society where this is accessible. People may not choose to access it, but you can't say, well, it's not accessible. I said, well, look for your head. Can you see your head? No. Well, that's the gate, So where it is now. You might not want it, but when you're in a community where it is, where that is acknowledged, and where everyone's response is interesting and different, and there's no standard response, that is really a different kind of society from the normal one. And I can see it growing, and it is a natural phenomena. This is emerging into consciousness. Here we are, the three of us, yet there's only one consciousness. We're not arguing about that. I'm not arguing about it. I'm celebrating it. I'm not questioning, and if I say something, you might think, oh, I'm not sure about that. That's fine with me, right? Because underneath it all, there's nothing to argue about. So it's not that we agree. Hopefully we see things differently. But I find that the fact that we're talking now, I mean, part of it for me is that the experiments make it accessible. And the second thing is the internet makes the possibility of being with others who are also aware of it genuinely, makes that, like now, just accessible. And that is a powerful combination. And it's never happened like this in history before. You've never had this kind of easy way of connecting with others who are genuinely seeing who they are. And I think one other thing to say is that the Headless Way doesn't come with any particular religious kind of conditions. I don't know what to say, but therefore anyone can pick it up. It doesn't argue. It doesn't say you've got to do this or that or join this or join that. And all the time, I'm in quite a unusual situation because I run the trust, and Douglas Harding passed away 15, 18 years ago, whatever it was. So now I'm the go-to person, and people go to me, and they just all the time. All the time, I get emails saying, "Oh my God, I just found this. I can't believe it," or "I found this 10 years ago. It changed my life," uh, all the time. So it's very, very encouraging. And I think that as well as an individual path unfolding, and one walk, I just found a book of mine that I signed the date when I bought it,
Mm.
September 1970. And
Wow.
that was a month after I met Douglas Harding. I just got it. And the book was On the Road, Jack Kerouac.
Oh, really?
On the
Funny.
road, yeah.
You were
Well,
certainly on the road at that point.
yeah. I was a Dharma bums, before that. And so it's a road, isn't it? Everyone has a road. I mean, if waking up to who you really are meant that no path, well, well, I mean,
That's
you know, and no challenges and no problems. I think that life, there's no problem.
mm,
You are, you're out of time, everything is in you, no problem. You can't go wrong. That is the fundamental joy. And I think, you see, it takes time for one to say, I'm just going to enjoy that, not apologize and not kind of be shy, and say within that, every moment is a problem.
mm,
Every moment has a decision, a choice to make, you
mm,
see. And Douglas Harding had this image in his great book, The Hierarchy of Heaven and Earth, that the structure of the universe, at zero, you're nothing, but you come away and you're an atom, and then from further away, you're a cell, and from further away, you're a person. It doesn't stop there. Your society and your life and planet, star, galaxy, you see. So it's like an onion with layers. And this structure functions as one organism.
mm,
So my human appearance is only one layer of a functioning system, you see. And I need my planet as much as I need my lungs, you see. And I need my galaxy. I mean, I can't exist without my galaxy, I can't exist without myself, see. But it functions like an office.
mm, mm,
And because you have levels, and you are in your office cubicle and it's empty,
mm,
right? But you've got a situation on the desk.
Mhm.
It's the current situation that you've got to deal with. Now, in an office, what happens is that the people below you have a problem and they can't solve it, so they pass it up to you.
mm,
So the things that arrive on your desk are the current problems that have just been delivered. Right?
mm,
They don't deliver solutions. They
mm,
deliver problems. So every situation has a choice. See, now, you might say, well, do I want a cup of tea? Well, that doesn't take much thinking about. Yeah, I'll have a cup of tea. So some decisions, some choices you can just make and they go straight back down. And the people underneath you, your cells and your molecules and your atoms just take action because you've decided, I'm going to open my hand there. Well, that didn't take much time for them to do it,
mm,
you see. But there are some decisions like, you know, uh, do I want to be cremated or buried? Or do I want to go to America? Or what am I going to do about that problem I've got with a neighbor? And I can't think, you see, I can't think what the answer is. There's a problem on my desk that I don't know the answer to it. So I have to refer it up,
mm,
you see, to the next levels, which in the physical hierarchy are, society and the planet, because things have got to move around like gears to finally get into place before the message comes back down and say, oh no, God, I've got to say to that person that. You know how a deeper problem takes longer to solve,
mm,
right? And you've got to sleep on it and you've got to just kind of be empty. You've got to do your work. You've got to think, right, I've got to get everything so I know what's on the desk. All right, but I can't think of so you can refer it, you see.
mm,
So here is the in a way of thinking about the current situation which gives it meaning in a way. And there's a learning. There's a learning. It's not random. It's a deeply moral universe in a way. It's the path. I mean, as who you really are, there's no purpose, there's no background, there's no conditioning, there's no future, there's nothing more, that's it. But within that is this path or this unfolding, which is tremendously meaningful and challenging and difficult at times. But the difficulty, um, uh, hopefully, resolves in even deeper understanding and going, oh my God, just think of, the, the insights that come, for example.
Mm,
So, I'm sure, I'm convinced each of you have your own path unfolding, of course. And being aware of your true nature, what a resource that is.
mm, mm,
I mean, you know that whatever the challenge is, for example, can't trust your true nature.
mm.
Now, does that make the challenge go away? No, but does that help you
Mm.
operate better? Of course it does. Try it out.
Mhm.
And I like to say, and conditions do not apply.
Let me ask you a question, because I remember when I got the book on having no head from Interlibrary Loan. This is before I met you, but not long before. And I read the first chapter, which is what, 3 pages long or something, and he has you do the pointing exercise. And this was about, maybe this was 7 or 8 or 9 years after I met my Dzogchen teacher, Tulku Urjin Rinpoche, who showed me this same thing in a very similar way. But at that point, I was under the impression that they were the only ones who knew about it. So imagine my surprise. I was sitting right in this same room, and I opened the book and I read the first few pages and I did this, and I was like, oh, they know. Oh my God, they know. This is in a book. And it was because of that I wrote you, actually. Now that I think about it, in the back, there was something like, talk to the Shaolin Trust or something if you're interested.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
what led to my involvement in this whole thing. But my question is, in our tradition, this insight is so kept so secret and so kind of obfuscated from everyone's view in most cases, that people sometimes are in their tradition for years and receive what is called, funnily enough, the pointing out instructions, which is what they actually call it, and still have no idea what's going on. Now, and the tradition itself seems to support this kind of like secrecy about the situation and so forth. What's your take on that? Because there's a lot of traditions. This is not an unknown thing in Taoism. It's known in all forms of Buddhism. It's known in esoteric Hinduism. I see it, even hints of it in some forms of Christianity. Why is it that in so many traditions they're like, oh, don't talk about that? Well, you guys have, just as you said, there's a whole bunch of experiments. It's all over the internet. You're broadcasting this right now. Like, what's your take on that?
Well, we didn't go to business school. I think that was it. It was too late. We let it out, and then we realized you could make a ton of money on it. But
Really think that's what it
it's
is?
too late. The horse had gone. We feel very embarrassed about it. We'd like to turn the clock back and make it secret, but it's too late now. I don't know. I'm living in poverty. It was a mistake. No, I don't know why. I'm being stupid, really, but I don't know why. But that's not my concern, in a way. Although I'm sad if that is the case, if because I do come across people, and it does affect how people walk the path, because they get this deep sense that you'll never get there, or only very special people get there, or it's luck, and you got to sit on a bench at the right point, and it just comes to you. Whereas my approach is so obvious. It is so brilliant. Why would you not want to share it? And you know that when you share it, you get it back 1,000 times strong, right? So, I mean, it grows. If you give it away, it grows, and it grows for everyone. I mean, I can see that happening. It's just like a garden blooming.
Mm.
And so I people say, well, maybe if you just give it away, people won't value it. They won't be ready for it. I say, you don't know. You've no idea. You cannot know if someone else is going to be ready. Were you ready? Was I ready? Why was I ready? What does ready mean? And so I say, give it away and speak to people respectfully. Don't push it on anyone, but speak. You'd share if you'd had a nice holiday. You'd like to share that. Well, this is better than a nice holiday. And if I am sensitive, you wouldn't know it, but you know, I, I, please, my lord, I'm pleading. I hear I'm sensitive when I'm sharing it. If the person's not interested, I'll back off.
Mm.
You know, because I share it by being it mainly, and then, but I'd like to, share it so the person has access to it. If they don't want to access it, that's their business, you see. If they say, so what? If that's the question sometimes comes up. Well, the problem with the Headless Way, it's so easy. People go, so what? I say, well, I mean, you've got to try it. You see, if you said to someone, I'm going to teach you Vipassana meditation, be aware of your breathing. See, oh, no, didn't do anything for me. You know, I mean, you didn't give it much of a chance. So, if you're not doing it now, you're not testing it. And you can't, if you're saying, oh, I tried that before, what did you try before? Because you can't remember it. And I say, if someone says, so what? I say, that is a brilliant question. That's a brilliant question. So what? Exactly. That's what we're all asking. So what? And please tell me what your first response is. What do you think? You say, well, I can't think of anything. Well, I mean, when I look at you and I can see your face and I can't see mine, I say, well, I'm looking at nothing and there's nothing in the way of you and I'm built open for you and I have your face now and I'm empty for you and I am you and there's only one, and it's love, you see, it's love. Well, it's actually, that's kind of hard to resist, isn't it, in a way, or if they do, so be it.
Irresistible, I have to say.
I've been waiting for you to say that.
Well, and I think a lot of the traditions, there's this, I don't know if it's a founded fear, but there's this fear that people will have this experience and then turn it into an idea and then use that idea to justify behavior.
Oh,
And this happens occasionally, but I think the fear about that happening is bigger than it actually happens, where people go, well, everything's empty, so I can do whatever I want, right?
oh, I see.
This sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, uh, you see, the great thing is that the experience itself is non-verbal and is self-evident and true. And if someone, they're obviously um, just talking about an idea about it, aren't they? They're not the actual experience itself. Uh, um, and if someone does that, well, I'll hopefully try and kind of understand what they're doing and where they're coming from. And my business is here where I am, and to be true to that, and to honor that, and sort of be honored by it, and enjoy it. And what other people do with it is another thing, I suppose. Yeah,
Yeah, my experience of it is like yours, that love is part of it. So I don't think a person really got it if their immediate action is to then go do selfish things, on its basis. To me, it's like, how could you be in that experience and be selfish at the same time? I don't think those two go together.
I understand. No, well put. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I also, I I find that hanging out with friends where this is recognized, like the three of us, um, and where we have this in common, I mean, more than in common, it just defies description, really, how wonderful it is. And this um, is just a, well, I have to say, it's a beautiful thing. And fresh, it's not closed, it's open. And our true nature is open. And to be with friends who are valuing it is to celebrate it together and praise it together in a way and adore it and to acknowledge what it is, although we cannot say what it is, yet it is. And it that they say religion, the heart of religion, and this is it sort of in Christian or Hindu terms, God, the heart of religion is recognizing that God is. That is the big deal. That the fact that there is being, there might not be. You could say there might not have been, but there is, and you can't explain it. And it is the most incredible act of of achievement, of just happening. And it is sort of being awake to the total oddness that you are, the miracle that you are. I mean, oddness in the most wonderful way. It's not going to sleep and just acting as if it's all normal, I think our lives on this planet are very brief, and if you spend your life just worrying about the mortgage and uh, not stepping back like we are doing now, from time to time, or in my case, quite often, and just going, you know, what? What? So what? you know, and that because it's not you asking and being confused, it's you asking and saying, "Oh my God, I'm looking out of that. I am that. We all are that." And it means you're in me and I'm in you. And this is a different way of being together. And we're only at the beginning as a society and as friends of finding out what it's like to be together with this on the front burner.
Mm.
And that is a tremendously exciting journey to be on. That's the Sangha, that's the community of saints, as they say in the Christian thing. It's the community of people aware of this, and it's not a done deal, and it's only the beginning of what is potentially a wonderful evolution and development. Yeah.
Wow, there's so many things to discuss. I suppose we should just ask you now. Would you mind coming back sometime so we can go?
Oh, I'd love to hang out with you both in the Great Void.
Well, let
Yeah.
me ask you one thing. This just occurred to me. I've taught a lot of the Headless Way myself because I find it so amazing and awesome. And I've been present when you've taught it a lot of times, some of your brother and so forth. There seem to be, different reactions to it, right? Everything from this is not true. I once taught in Switzerland, and even in the tube, which is I personally think the most powerful example of the most powerful experiment. When they're in the tube and you ask like how many faces are in the tube, one guy was like 2, and then he got up and he left and he never came. He was like, he had a real barrier, right? Poor guy. But the reactions, even of getting it, go from like, oh, that's interesting, to total flabbergasted amazement. Have you seen, since you've been doing this, for 50 years, have you seen any difference in the immediate experience of people, how it unfolds in their life? And I mean, if they really get their mind, a lot of people want to get their minds blown. and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I'm just curious how that unfolds for people.
Well, it's a good point to make. And let me say that there is not a right response. And uh, getting high on it is great, is healthy, but it's not necessary. And if you do get high on it, it will go.
Mm,
And this is well known, isn't it? And often you get the highs, and then you lose them, and you think you've lost it, and you
mm,
haven't. I'm here to say you haven't. You just lost the feeling. And have patience. It's called the desert or the dark night of the soul, and it can come in a day or over a year or whenever. So you're going to, in terms of feeling and response, you're going to go up and down. This is normal. You'll never stay steady, never have any kind, because feelings come and go. It's like the weather. Here nothing changes, but there it's all changing. You
mm,
see, dukkha. But the thing is, I think, for example, that there's a maturing that happens over the months and years, and part of the maturing is you living with it and seeing how it works. And how it works is that you get the highs and then they go, and you get the highs and then they go, and you get the deepest insight and it goes. And what happens is at some level you start to see that pattern or that is true. So that when the next high or the next low comes, somewhere in you, you know that it will pass, but you won't. And
mm,
that also I think another thing that happens, a kind of maturing process, is that in a certain sense, your true nature is other than you. It's not you. It's totally strange and mysterious. But in another sense, it is you. And they're always a paradox. So on the one hand, you can say, well, everything just happens and it's got nothing to do with me and it's just arising in consciousness. So that gives a sense of detachment, you see. So as you kind of over the years sense that, that will affect you, how you relate to life. But the other side is saying, well, actually, it all comes from me. It all comes from my own being. It arises out of me. And it flows from me, not just my voice coming out of the silence here, but my movement and your voice and the trees outside the window and the stars moving. It's all happening in me and from me and as me. And as you go on noticing that, it sinks in that it's true. And it sinks in that the world is yours. And so it sinks deeper and deeper, gradually with ups and downs, and you can't force this, that the world is at home in you, that that it's not an enemy, and that everyone is within you, and you're free. You see, that sense, the freedom is instant, but the feeling and the deepening sense of freedom and how that works out in your life takes the rest of your life and forever. And that is wonderful. You've got both sides of it. So in many, many ways, this will deepen in you, and you can't force it. It takes time, and it's different, has different flavors for each of us. And so we have the joy of finding out how it works in this particular life with you, and it's not going to be exactly the same as with anyone else, but there'll be parallels and themes, which is why we can talk about it. And for example, the recognition that your true nature wasn't born and won't die. That is available now. You can see that. You're not in time, time is in you. But the way that affects your relationship with death, you see, and with illness, and with things ending, but you don't end. Every time something ends and you don't end, that is going to potentially deepen your sense of inner stability, if I can put it like that. So in all these kinds of ways, and then you talk to others and say, "Oh yeah, yeah, I can see that's happening in you too." But it's happening because of different reasons for you, because you got a different life. But that really helps me, so that my path includes your path. and your path includes mine, and they're not separate.
Beautiful. Wow. That seems like a good place to conclude this this meeting. That was terrific. It's so good to see you. And I know we talk, but it's nice to see you on our little show. Thank you so
Well,
much.
lovely to meet you, to see you both, and to meet Damien, and to be space for you both, and you be space for me. And yeah, you've given me a chance to celebrate our true nature. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we'd love to have you back, and this was truly a joy, and it's so nice to bring in these other traditions, and it really like enhances the traditions we're practicing, and so I'm really grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Hopefully see you again in the next little bit.
Definitely.
All right, we'll talk again soon. Signing off. So thank you so much, all of you, for listening. As always, please like, share, subscribe, comment, all those things for the algorithm. And go ahead, and if you want to connect with Richard Lang, you can find him. Where can our listeners find you?
Headless.org, and we've got an app, the Headless Way.
And we'll
Wonderful.
put links to those in the notes as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice to see
Okay.
you. Thanks, brother. That was awesome.